Yep. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Twitch Johnson. So grab your substance or your wands, or stay sober-minded, if you will. And if you're feeling my vibe, you can like, share, and subscribe. You can catch all the handles down at the description below. And before we get into this beautiful young lady with us today, I want to give you the current events that nobody asked for. So today's current events, we're going to give a shout out to a podcast, a former podcaster, Bigger BX. I had a conversation with him the other day. He's looking to return back to YouTube. Yes, Bigger BX, if you're not familiar with him, he was actually big when YouTube was just a baby. So he's looking to make a return back to his channel. You can find him at Bigger BX. That's BIGGABX. That's the handle for his YouTube channel. He was doing a lot of commentary on just funny skits, things that we go through in daily life, and he's going to be rebooting his channel. So shout out to Bigger BX. And that's the current events that nobody asked for. So this lady, she doesn't need an introduction to me, but she'll need an introduction for you. Please say your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Janette Burke, and I am from the Toronto, Ontario, Canada area. I am an online media personality, a TV show podcast host of the 4-time award-winning lifestyle, entertainment, and culture TV show Janette's TV Podcast for Savvy Women Over 40, the top show for Savvy Women Over 40. I'm also a correspondent, an MC speaker, and an on-camera consultant for those who come to me to seek wisdom on how to present better on camera, or maybe to start their own podcast or YouTube channel and sort of duplicate things that I did.
Yes, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, she is
Thank you for
the.
having me.
I'm not going to say Jack because she's not a guy. So let's say Jessica of all trades. But forget it. She does everything. I'm talking about TV, podcast, coaching. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, I would like to do the pour out and pour up. So who would you like to pour out for, or who would you like to pour up for?
I'll pour out for my father, who passed away 6.5 years ago.
Mm.
And he was a business guy and he taught me a lot, but he didn't quite understand my love of media and broadcasting and podcasting. So that was always a little bit of a source of discontent for me, because I felt like I was always being pushed to do things I didn't really want to do, or be something I didn't want to be, when my true calling has always been camera and interviewing and producing. But I do value all the business lessons he gave me.
Amen. Let's pour out for that. And there you have it. Yeah, I got a whole bar. All right,
Thank you.
let's jump into this, Jeanette. I'm ready. So you've done TV, you do podcasting, you mentioned that you do coaching. I follow your content, I follow your advisories. So you even go as down to talking about accessories and promoting products. I've seen that you promote toothbrushes, you promote books, you talk about actors and authors. What was your aspirations, and how did you find at so many years, what did you like to do?
Well, the aspiration was that I actually started out in PR, public and media relations marketing, and there was always a piece that was missing for me. I had accomplished a great deal. I had a boutique PR firm, and I was working with celebrities and non-celebrities, but there was always something missing for me. So I had the opportunity to go on a media tour and a speaking tour. And in so doing, I kind of discovered that I was much happier in front of the camera than behind the camera. And I sort of knew that. I had a sixth sense inkling of that since I was a child. And I think that's why I always felt like something was missing, and I wasn't happy, I wasn't fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I had, my successes in it, and I even had people working for me, but there was always something missing. And then when I became a media person and start interviewing, and went from being a guest to being offered my own segment to being offered my own show to being made a co-host. Those feelings disappeared because I had found the void that I was looking for. And for me, it's just a natural thing. I love it. I love being on camera. I love interviewing. I love producing. When I decided to start Janette's TV, that was the original name of the show, and now it's Janette's TV podcast, it took everything I had in me to leave traditional media behind. But I did so because there was a lot of sexism and I couldn't move up, and I couldn't even do many things. Like, for example, I was never allowed to promote my own segments or my own episodes. Everything had to go through the network. And I wanted to do certain events like the Toronto International Film Festival, which is a huge event. And I worked like a Dickens to get us into with media accreditation. And I wasn't even allowed to have a camera unless I paid for the camera guy to go with me. So after a while, I did dealt with 3 different networks. And after a while, I said, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to be like Nike. I'm just going to do it.
Right.
So I decided I'm going to go independent, which has its pluses and minuses. I will tell you that. I maybe didn't think it all the way through, but I was younger then, right? So, I went as an independent, and then I quickly realized, hey, I've got no backing by a network, nothing. I don't even have, any money behind me. How am I going to do this now that I've started?
Right.
So we're talking like when I left, I had 700 people following me on Facebook, and that was it. Well, flash forward, today is I'm in season 14. I built a global audience of 9.2 million women, savvy women over 40 who love luxury items. And I just kept plugging away and chipping at my content to get it more perfected to meet the needs of the people watching. And it was always very much based in entertainment, lifestyle, and culture. Like that, those were the 3 areas I seemed to excel at. So lifestyle and entertainment, really. And so I started there, and I started building up my audience, and I went out and I got myself guests, my very first guest. Oh, and I also had to get myself a crew to film with and everything.
Right.
So my very first guest was Jeannie Becker, who is also from Canada, Toronto, Ontario, but she's a media icon in the fashion television world. And so that really, it spun from there. And I just made up my mind, okay, this is what I'm going to want to cover. These are the events I want to get media credited for. These are the celebrities. Now, I don't get everything I want because there's plenty of things I ask for that I don't get. But I think the point here is that I had a starting point. I had a focus. I knew where I wanted to go. And I knew that I had to figure out how I was going to monetize it, because I wasn't going to be able to sustain myself, because this is my livelihood. This is my chosen profession. So I came up with a package for guests or interviewees and sponsors and everything. I came up with all of that. And then that also evolved over the years, right? So I started small, and then I added on, right? Added on service. And the one thing that I never took away was the 4 key elements, which was some on-camera training, which I insisted upon because I was constantly encountering, both in my previous life as a publicist and after leaving that behind, becoming a media personality, I was encountering guests that were not prepared to be interviewed. And I wouldn't have that, because I had a standard, and I still have a very high standard for my show. And I wanted it to be at the level of a national TV show. Yes. Because even though we're digital, we are a national, international platform, and everybody's watching us. So my standards were very high. I still had like a studio backing, like in terms of the way I was filming.
Right.
And I would not accept guests that were coming in for pitch fests. And I still won't accept that, because I have a coveted audience and I have a duty to provide them with credible, newsworthy information. So I found that the key part of the package one part was on camera training to make sure that the guest actually came with a newsworthy story and not an ad in disguise that nobody wanted to listen to.
Right.
So that was one key part, and it's still a part of the offer. Even though I've evolved and it's been esoteric, that's one thing that has remained. The second part that remained was the promotional piece that I had execute with team because I can't do it by myself, right? So it's a very in-depth promotional piece for people who come to be either interviewees or sponsors or both of the show, and it includes like your interview. We do a promo video. You become part of the show. You get basically commercial inserted, both pre-roll, end roll, or just before the credits. It depends on what you want in the package, but it's there. And supplemented by a done for you social media campaign for the duration of your time, which
Mm-hmm.
is, a lot of work. And also we have the online division, which is sorry, it's not the online division because we are an online show and podcast. But we have like the written word division, which is the e-publication side, which goes out every week, and you get in there too. So it's like this whole package I had to put together,
Mm-hmm.
and it had 4 key components, and I retained 4 key components, but I added and I grew and I evolved. And in the course of doing so, I realized that I became a media marketing business, right? Like not just media, but media marketing business, because the level of service that I provide, which requires over 4 people to execute every single week, who basically do the work of 20, like a whole news team. We come together, and the whole purpose is to help our sponsors and our interviewees reach my audience of over 9.2 million
Mm-hmm.
and get the eyeballs on you and your products, because we cover lifestyle content and entertainment content, and we do feature celebrities, but we also feature celebrities in their field, like high-end CEOs, founders, CMOs, and marketing directors who
Mm-hmm.
are the brand representative. So it's a marrying sort of pairing between niche lifestyle brands like hair, makeup, clothing, wine, food, what have you, that want to get in front of my audience, because
Right.
my audience consists of savvy women over 40 who love luxury and have the means to purchase.
Amen. Like,
You know, so it all comes together like that and folds like that.
mm-hmm. Like, I commend that, and I did see some of your material with you having conversations with other women. So yeah, let's clap for that because there was a time where women weren't able to vote. It was a time in yesteryear where women were traditionally to be at home while men went to work. So my question is, how important is women empowerment?
Well, women empowerment is very important, but let's just take a step back.
Yes.
So I'm about women in leadership. I'm
Love.
about women having choices if they want to be in a career, if they want to be the president of their own company, if they want to be the founder, if they want to juggle all this with a family, a marriage,
Mhm.
or even as a single mom, um, while also possibly taking care of elderly parents. These are choices that we make. And I want women to know that they can have what they want, that they can have the option that they decide is right for them in their life without judgment. That all avenues are open roads to achieving what you want in life. I also want women to know that it's okay to ask for what you want and go after what you want. And it's even better when you have the support of other people around you, whether it's your family, a spouse, your children, your friends, neighbors, whatever, right? So I want women to understand that. And that's what I consider empowerment.
Mm.
So the word empowerment itself kind of implies that we don't have power. So I'm not an advocate of that. What I am an advocate of is, yes, you do have power. We have power in our voice. We have power in our choices. We have power in our ability to gather and lift each other up. as a community supporting each other. Um, we have power in so many different ways that we may not have always seen or recognized, as you brought up, that, women maybe seemed that they were stuck or left in the home or whatever. But in fact, even going back to like the earliest years of, let's say when suffragettes were around trying to fight for the right to have a vote.
Right.
I mean, we've always had a voice. We've always used our voice for betterment, to help our justice, for advocates of politics, for advocates of economic development, even prison reform.
Yes.
And they may not have always had the top tier positions, as in paid positions. They maybe fought more for that in the feminist movement, but they've had the power and the voice, and it's growing stronger
Mm-hmm.
every decade, every generation.
Yes. Like I agree. I feel that just like learning a little bit about the history, but without history, common sense, women are very instrumental and very important to the world. First of all, you are the ones that conceive everyone. So without women, there wouldn't really be any human species. On top of that, you are the backbone. If you're gonna go religious way, without Eve, Adam gave the rib for women, but without Eve, Adam wouldn't have a partner. So with all of that, I feel that like people need to understand that women run the world. We had James Brown one time say, it's a man's world, but it's the women that makes it go round. I want to say that.
Well, I would have to agree with you on that,
Yes.
because uh, even in the home, women rule the roost, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they do, because 90% of the decisions, including the family vacation to the family car to the family TV, it's it's the women of the home will be the ultimate one to
Right.
decide, right? So, you know what they say: behind every great man is a great woman,
Hmm.
and that's the whole thing. We are complements to each other. We're
Yes.
supposed to come together, as Adam and Eve did, to work as a team.
Hmm.
And when we are working in tandem as a team, we're only that much better. We're
That part.
only that much greater, right?
Hmm.
And how many women have been responsible for furthering their husbands' careers, whether it's in politics or whether it's, the CEO of a multi-million dollar company?
Right.
How many women were in the trenches with that person, the male or their counterpart, and helping them every step of the way build up to the multi-million dollar level when they started with nothing, right? Whether it was through finding contacts or being a staff member until you could afford to hire, or rather, you know what I mean? The women have been there, and they've also been the ones to buy your groceries, do your laundry, cook your meals, take care of your kids, and so on and so forth. So when I say my women who watch my show come from these type of backgrounds, but also have a love of luxury items that they would like to pamper themselves with, they kind of deserve that, right? Because they've been working, they've been supporting, they've been handholding, and that's why they have that love of luxury.
Right. You better cook. And sorry, because I had sneezed. I didn't want everybody to hear that. I'm still coming. We're talking about women empowerment. Also on the show, you have promotions. You have products that you talk about, you give commentary about. How do you choose those products, or sponsors paying you to promote the product?
Well, when I talked about being esoteric and evolving the show with different, so there's always like the main featured interview for the week, right? Which is basically the episode of Janette's TV podcast. What you're talking about is our spin-off segments, like Janette's Take On, which is my take on world events, media marketing, and business topics that are on everyone's mind. Dare I say lips? So I do that. That's just me, and I choose based on what's going on in the world.
Hmm.
The tips and sips, Janette's tips and sips, that's the other segment where we talk about products, must have products that are time saving, money saving, could be hacks, could be certain types of recipes, low carb eating, low carb cooking. We cover a lot of different things under that segment. Personally, I battled my weight for many years, and in the last 2 years I dropped over 75 pounds. So low carb is a very intricate part of my life, so I want to share that with others. As for the products, I choose things based on things that I think would be of interest, and also products I actually use. And I'm not being paid an endorsement fee to speak of these products. This is a lot of it's education based. What I do have, though, is something similar to a sponsorship, but not exactly. And that's called affiliate marketing,
Mm-hmm.
wherein I share the link so that if you wish to buy that product that I just spoke of, yes, I can earn a commission on that. In terms of my sponsors, those sponsors is a different package, and it's for the show, or it could be that we have one sponsor come in for one product or one take on Janette's Tips and Sips, which is the product placement segment.
Mm-hmm.
We could have it. We've thought about it, but we have like another thing called Janette's Q&A, which is a new thing I just brought back. It's another segment where my audience gets to ask me questions about my life in media, or specific questions they might have about
Mm-hmm.
media, like how can media grow your business, or how can I be better on camera. So every week we now address a question. And this week we had it could be from the viewer or it could be from the listener, because we have the podcast and TV side.
Yes.
This week we had the listener ask me what were the top 5 female celebrity interviews I did
Okay.
to date. So I answered that one. And every week it's something different. And then, we have like our sponsors. We deal with strictly niche lifestyle brand for
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship because of the alignment, right? It fits with what we're doing. It fits with what the audience, who the audience is and what they want. And it all matches up nicely. If it didn't have that, if it wasn't in alignment, we would not be able to attract sponsors. But, sponsors come to us because we offer an incredible package with an incredible platform with views and downloads and measurable engagement and measurable results. And also because we are a digital platform, we can offer specifics that traditional media does not
Yes.
offer. So it's a good avenue. And because of the intricacies of the package, which I didn't go through everything with you,
It's
but
okay.
we cover enough that they can get what they need to be primarily introduced to my audience, which is new eyeballs for them,
Mm-hmm.
and also brand awareness of what they're doing. And of course, all of this with an understanding of who they are, what their product is, what their company is, and how it differs from their competition will allow them to eventually work my audience into their fold and convert them to customers, right?
Yes.
So that's what it's all about.
Right. Now, speaking of the Q&A segment, I've caught a few of them. You covered a question that's it poked out to me. You were talking about swingers. So,
That was in the take on.
yeah.
That was one of my take on,
Okay.
and it
Yes.
was side.
I wanna yeah, I wanna just bring it here and just say what was what's your take on swingers? You were breaking down different areas of what a swinger is. So I was just learning a little bit about it because I know what I think when I think of swingers. I think of a married couple and they just want to indulge with other couples, like, and just in a free spirited way. But you were breaking down that there were other areas of what swinging looks like.
Well, the way that I had covered it had to do with the show on TV. I think it's that Learning Channel or Lifetime Network. I can't remember the exact
Lifetime.
network, but there's a show called Mormon Wives. And in the Mormon Wives, in the Mormon community, they were talking about different types of swinging within that community, which was surprising because it's against what the Mormon religion stands for.
Right.
And so they were saying that there's actual swinging, like you depicted, swinging with other couples, but there's like a soft swing where you don't actually go all the way, but some of them did, right? So my take on swinging in general is this, right or wrong. I mean, again, it's a personal, I guess, choice, but I'm not a person who would be into swinging. I don't advocate it for me, because to me a marriage is sacred, and when you make the decision to be with somebody for the rest of your life, and you make that commitment and you take that oath, that's your partner. And I think that, out of the respect, you should just stay within the confines of marriage. But if you feel like you need to step away from that or step outside of it because the confines aren't fulfilling enough, or you're not getting your needs met or whatever, then there's a problem within the marriage, within the partnership, that either needs to get solved or you need to get a divorce.
That part. I have nothing to add. Let's change gears. Because I know that like we pressed on time a little bit. So you left traditional social media, and now you're a content creator, you're a host, you're a vlogger. You do so much with the seasoned experience that you have. Podcasting. You started this walk from scratch. How I'm sorry. What are the steps if someone is thinking of starting a podcast and they're new to this? Can you give them some advice of how to start a podcast, and what are some pros and cons for basics of getting your podcast from the ground up?
Mhm. So initially we were just an online TV show, right? It was like Janette's TV. And then it became Janette's TV podcast because in the COVID period, I decided to add the podcast part to it. And then it was Janette's TV and Janette's TV podcast. And then I just merged it together into one Janette's TV podcast. So we're still a TV show, and like an online TV show, as well as a podcast on 13 different podcast channels, and the TV side is all over the internet: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Vimeo, YouTube, and the list goes on, right? So we are definitely both. Now, what in answer to your question, so you don't have to have the TV side and the podcast side. You could have one or the other, or you could have both, like I do.
Hmm.
But whether you're going to start a YouTube channel or whether you're going to start a podcast, there's some key considerations I think you need to look at before you get involved. Number one, what is your reason for wanting to do it? And number two, what are you going to do? What's your topic going to be? And how is it going to be niche, like so that it's different or unique, so that you can attract viewers and listeners
Hmm.
and grow? The third thing is sort of like, what are you going to bring to it that's going to be different, right? Because there might already be 101 makeup shows or channels out there. What's going to be different about yours? What's your twist? What's your spin?
Hmm.
The next piece is, do you realize what you're getting into? Because it's a commitment, right? Like once you start, you've got to be consistent or you will not build up following. So I advise people, okay, you do realize that it's an episode a week, at least, sometimes more. You need to plan what you're going to cover in your segments. You need to plan who you might want to have as a guest. You got to have everything, so your ducks lined up in a row. You don't want to be like all over the board, because then you're going to actually confuse your ideal audience, and they won't come back, right? You have to give them what they want every week. And you can't assume that. You kind of have to do some market research on that and figure out what it is they're looking for. And then, of course, promotion is another key part, right? So you've got to be consistent with the promotion too, and like get it out there, because otherwise you'll be unknown and no one will follow you. So I think that these are the key considerations. And I think that you also have to like realize, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, what's my plan of action for doing this? When am I going to start it? What's the next few episodes out looking like? Maybe plan for at least a few months. And then you also want to make sure that you're set up for this, right? So what's your equipment looking like? What do you have to start with? I would at the bare minimum, you could use your cell phone. You
Mm-hmm.
could, um, have some good lighting and
Mm-hmm.
set up a sort of like a set in your home or whatever. Um, and then sound is very important
Very
too.
important.
So you don't have to invest a ton upfront in equipment, but you got to have something like basic, like good lighting, um, and you have to have good sound, and you can use your cell phone camera and uh, buy maybe just like a small tripod or something so that you're not holding it and it's all shaky or
Right.
whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's I covered that on my YouTube channel, and when you asking people that you just in conversation and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting the show. You be like, well, why don't you? I think I am. You talk to them in a few weeks. Well, why didn't you start the show? I don't have the right equipment. I don't have the space. It's simple. I spoke to Steven Robles. He's a person that represents Riverside FM. He even said it himself. He's been doing this for a few years, podcasting and hosting shows. Just start. Just start. Phones are you can utilize phones for everything now. You have the camera, you have the editing, you have AI. All of that is all in the phones now. So if you don't have the fancy equipment or anything of that nature, just to start, you could just start with your phone and just press record. Um,
Yeah, exactly. Like it's an affordable tool.
excuse me.
It definitely is. It doesn't have to be complicated in terms of space. You need like a very little space. You could even go start in a closet, really.
Right.
And I think background is important too, like to have sort of like I set up a set type of thing, but some people like green screen. I'm not a fan of it.
Yes.
I don't like the virtual thing behind you because if you don't have it correct, your hands will move or your hair moves and then you see all this
Mhm.
green through it. I have a set, so I'm not a fan of that. um but you can do what you want, but I think you should just understand, like, why are you doing this? Is this going to be an added piece to your business, for example? Is this going to be a marketing tool?
Right.
You should have a plan of action. That's the most important.
Very,
And
very
then
important.
you got to figure that it's going to take time to build up and to monetize. So if you're getting into it and thinking that you're going to be a YouTube star or podcast star overnight with millions of downloads and millions of views, making, tons of money driving around in a limousine, pop, burst the bubble. It doesn't
Right.
work that way.
Right. I got two more questions for you. One of them,
Okay.
it stuck out to me, and I admired the take on it, and I hope you don't mind us just discussing it a little bit. You and another sister were talking about white supremacy. And
Yeah.
I, as an African American and from the black culture, I appreciate the take that you ladies had on it. Um, Now on a black culture, when you're talking about certain topics, depending on what you're saying, people will look at you as a traitor or like, all right, you're talking out of turn, like you're talking against us. For you ladies to be from the lighter descent, people who are considered white supremacists, if they caught that episode, do you feel like they would feel a type of way of about the conversation pieces that you guys were having?
Well, I should say that the episode had to do with the author who wrote this book, White. Her name is Aviva Rubin, and the novel was about a woman, her key character, her main character named Sarah, who grew up in a Canadian family, but a white supremacist family with white supremacist views,
Yeah.
and how she navigated the challenges of going against those beliefs. That was what the episode was about, right?
Mhm.
But if you ask me about white supremacy in Canada or the US, it's much different, I think, in the United States than it is in Canada. But overall, I would say that um, anyone catching this episode who can relate to the ideas of racism and uh, anti Semitism and anti immigration could certainly learn something from what the author of Eva Rubin had to say about what the book's about, right? Because ultimately, what it is, it's a story of a girl named Sarah who is raised with these very racist beliefs and she learns things about her family that are like uh, rocking her world, turning it upside down. And then
Mhm.
she has to deal with it and challenge herself to come away from those beliefs. And so I think we are all guilty of certain beliefs that we need to ask ourselves, is this really the case? You know, we all need to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
Is this really the case? And are we being fair? Are we being fair to another person, making judgments, sound judgments about them without really knowing the whole truth? Are we judging people by their color or their race based on stereotypes that we have maybe come to believe that have been passed down to us by our, generations, grandparents, parents, maybe even our school system, maybe even our governments, right? Wherever we're getting these ideologies or rhetorics from, we need to question it. We should not swallow blindly whatever is told to us, but rather learn to question, learn to ascertain facts for ourselves and not just believe everything the way we see it. Maybe even what we see on TV, right? Some of it is fake news, right?
Yes.
And I'm against that. I'm against um, uh, what I would like to say, spoiling young minds with incorrect information when they don't have all the facts and they don't know how to decipher
Hmm.
the facts, the truth from the fallacy, right? So if we're going to be fair about it, I think we need to present both sides of the coin, both sides of the story, educate our youth, and really make sure that they have the right information to make the right judgment call,
Amen.
and not just blindly make choices, decisions, or even actions. Their actions like going to campuses on universities, setting up house, saying, oh, we know everything. Do you? Do you really know everything? Are you there?
Hmm.
Where are you getting your sources of information from? Are they accurate
Right.
or are they tainted? Now, I know it's not easy to always, question,
Right.
but if you're a reasonable person, you gotta question, and you gotta decide for yourself, and you gotta meet and interact with different people from different backgrounds before you can say you know everything about them.
Absolutely, and that goes both ways. Not just for other, like, you, depending on what culture you're speaking with, what race, you have to educate yourself on the race that you're speaking of. Like, you can empathize, but you can't authentically empathize with another race if you don't have the education. If you haven't been through a thing or two and had that first hand experience that they've had. I'll leave it that because we know that race and diversity could keep going. But I just wanted to let you know that I admired you ladies' feedback on what you guys were reading and what you guys said on that show. If anybody wants to catch it, that's catching this, you'll have to go on Janette's social medias and you'll catch those clips.
Yeah,
Um
or the YouTube channel and the playlist for that was last week's
and
episode that came out Monday.
I'll leave all of that in the description below so they can follow that. No,
Thank
because
you.
they need to follow you. Last but not least, I'll wrap this up. This could be more of some information and maybe help someone out. How important is a niche?
It's extremely important. So we in Canada say niche. I believe in the United States you guys say it niche. I
Yes.
think you say it niche. Okay, just so we're clear, so everybody knows what we're talking about here.
Exactly. Yes.
It's extremely important to have that. Without it, you cannot be differentiating yourself, your business, really anything. We can't all be like each other, because if we're all like each other and we're all doing the same thing, it's boring. And where's the incentive to come to want anything to do with you, whether it's watch your show or hire you for a job or hire your company? You have to be able to tell me what you do differently and why you chose to do it differently. You have to be able to show me that you understand that there's a void in the marketplace and you know how to fill it with
Hmm.
something that's maybe not been done yet. Maybe it's a new technique, or maybe it's um, a new technology, whatever, right? But it, in order to fill gaps, we need niches, or what do you guys call it? Niche, niches,
Yes.
niches, niche,
This
niche,
is me.
whatever. we need those things, right? Because it's all about problem solving. And everybody's got problems they need solved.
Right.
Um, Either to make them more money, to give them more time, to give them more happiness, to give them more freedom, whatever. Everybody's got some kind of problem that they need solved. It usually boils down to more money, more time, more freedom, whatever. That's
Mhm.
what they're looking for, the end result. But you have to find a way to give them that, whether it's through service or through education or what you're going to cover on your podcast or your YouTube channel or whatever. You've got to be able to um, differentiate yourself in that way and show that you are the one that is the one to understand their problem or their pain and be the solution to it. You are their problem solver. And I would even go so far as to say, in today's world, life is pretty competitive. And even when we go for jobs, right, we have to show potential employers, why us? Why are we the one that should have this job? What makes me different from the 5 other blondes that are coming in for the same thing,
Amen.
right?
Amen.
If and I do a little acting on the side too, right? And you say I've got all these multifaceted things, but really it's all the same skill set: camera, speaking, being in front of people, writing, whatever. It's all the same skill set. So when I do a little acting or voiceover work or even some modeling work, this is just sort of a sideline that's sort of a passion of mine, but it kind of fits with my skill set. I got to go on auditions or I have to do a self tape and hand it in. How will I be the one to get the part or get the commercial if I'm like everyone else, right? There's got to be that one thing that stands out from the others where the producer or whoever, the boss, the viewer, whatever, whoever it is going to say, yeah, that's the one. And she's the one because somehow you said something in a way, or you presented it in such a way, or you touched upon it in such a way, or you found a new unique spin on it, where your strengths are shining through and people are resonating with you, believing you. You're showing your credibility, you're showing your strengths, you're showing your likability, you're showing your trust factors, and you're showing yourself as the ideal problem solver to whatever pain they are feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can fill the void for in your special and unique way.
Amen. You better go, girl. You better go.
Well, you know
Wow.
what? I'm talking to you. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should be running for president of the U.S.
I
instead
would
of
have
Canada.
voted. I would have voted. You were doing great. But, Jeanette, you were a breath of fresh air. You were so amazing. I love your experience and how seasoned you are inside of the media and just your presence on the camera. But just a little bit, ladies and gentlemen, like we've been trying to get this off the floor for a few weeks. And, she had things that she was just caught up in. I got sick. But I'm glad that we got to do this. I'm still a little sick, but I wanted to do it. And
Well,
if you
thank
don't
you. It's
have
been riveting.
I just want to give you your flowers, and I just want to say, keep going. I'm watching. I know that someone out there that's catching this, they will be watching. So keep going, and I love what you're doing.
Well,
If you,
thank you very much. That means so much to me because what I do is not easy. It's a lot of work
it's not.
every week with myself and my team. And I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. I want to be there. I am like a solution for women, right? Because women over 40 who want to know about lifestyle, culture, and entertainment, and also products that can enhance and improve their life. So this means a lot to me that you're saying this to me because when you get 365 days in a year and you're bumping and grinding every time reaching higher. Well, should I cover this? Should I feature that? How, is it going to make a difference? Is it going to have an impact? And when you say that, it just makes it like all worth it, right? Because it's not easy. It's difficult, and it's especially difficult when you're not part of the traditional media, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
live in your truth. Thank you very much for saying that to me.
No problem. And with that being said, that concludes another episode of Let's Talk About It. You can catch me on Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, YouTube, and also TikTok and other platforms that surround podcasts. And also, you can catch clips on all of those social medias that I mentioned. With that being said, I'll see y'all next time. Peace.